Good evening and welcome to the King's Board of Education work session on August the 13th, 2024. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Furness, Mr. Moore.
You flatter me.
2 years.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes,
Mr. Skirl.
Yes.
that was just a throwback. I also want to give a shout out to Jill. She's the person in the treasurer's office that always does the minutes, and she's recuperating from some surgery. So, hey, Jill. I'll turn it over to you for reports.
Great. Thank you. Welcome back, board, for the 24-25 school year. We're excited to get things started. The last couple of days, we've had some extremely engaging things going within our district. Welcomed our teachers back yesterday. It was great to see all of our staff throughout the entire district and work done at every building. And then today followed that up with basically a teacher-led PD day. So I want to give special thanks to Mr. Freeman, Mrs. Martin for some of their work in leading this and organizing and prepping a lot of the great work that's happening. But seeing our teachers engage in a lot of really high-level PD, a lot of it led by teachers, is just tremendous and a good vision for where we want to continue to go. So we're thankful for that. As we move forward tonight, we have a presentation where we're fortunate tonight to have some of our folks from SHP and our HGC here as well, to talk to not only the board, but the community as an update towards what all the things that have been happening this summer around the new high school design. And you'll see some initial design concepts this evening, as well as discussion around the high school site location. And so it's important for us to have this discussion because there's been a lot of analysis and work done throughout the course of this summer that we feel that opening up this school year, we're ready to get moving and get started on further developing the high school that was approved in March. Two goals for tonight. Again, the design, the site location, and then also the design process. But before we begin with that and go in too much depth, I want to talk a little bit about and remind our board and our community that we really have and are trying to emphasize significantly with not only our staff, our students and administrators, the strategic initiatives that we're working on throughout this year. First one is our culture blueprint, which is really a focus on growth and innovation in our school district. Our Power 5 future skills, communication, collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking, and career readiness. Those essential skills, and we call them power skills in Kings, so that our students are fully prepared and highly competitive for when they leave our school district as they're competing for different jobs or enrollment or employment decisions. And the last one is looking at the best ways to meet individual needs of students based on their skills, their interests and abilities through a personalized learning approach. And so these initiatives are work we're doing throughout the district. A lot of this was prevalent today in our PD sessions and work we'll continue to talk about. But all of this it plays a role as we think about where we are currently and where we want to go. This plays a role into the design and the implementation when you're looking at new buildings. How can a new building support the initiatives in the future direction that we're going? So with that, I want to move on to looking at the exact site location. If you recall, throughout all of the fall and the master planning process, there was a lot of discussion around the property what was purchased from Kings Island in July of 23, and the commitment to the community that we were going to look at all the best possible options based on the entire campus. So when we talk about the entire campus at this point, we're looking at all of the locations on the campus. And so that's we are adding in the newly purchased property. So all of this is the site for the current high school and junior high. When we look at those pieces, and we analyze, and I know we've brought the board, we've had board discussions. We've had engagement with our community advisory team. And we analyzed what is the best possible location for our new high school moving forward. If you flip to the next slide, Dawn. Throughout this spring, after the bond passed, we had two different community advisory team sessions where we asked the community advisory team, when we're thinking about the best site location and doing our due diligence, et cetera, what are the factors that are going to be most important for you? There were two that stand out significantly. One was traffic flow. As we all know, the current site has a pretty highly congested area. It's compact, and there's a lot of with the hospital and a lot of the other construction that's been going on. Traffic flow has been a problem. The other piece is parking. As we know, there is currently very little parking on our site. And so we are looking, what are ways through any site that we choose within the campus, what's going to improve traffic flow, parking, give us room for growth, be highly functional and cost effective. So if you look at those top 5 with a location to the current athletic facilities. So all of those factors weigh in to where we're looking to recommend the high school site location be placed. So if you look at this, we would consider at this point that the central site location is the location that is outlined in the blue square. The central site location is where the current baseball and softball field are. This creates opportunity for us in a number of ways, and it allows us to put the new high school in that location that provides a lot of proximity and some benefit, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. It does allow also us an opportunity to relocate our baseball and softball field. The baseball and softball field would look to go on the newly purchased southern part of the campus. And that would, obviously that creates an opportunity for us to improve those facilities. Certainly it lands within the scope of the current budget. That opportunity that we've discussed, and I know we've had quite a few discussions with the board along this process as we, start to communicate this to our broader community. But I think it's important to note that some of the rationale for this analysis is there's considerable expenses that we would have to incur as a district to analyze this property or our entire site property before the bond was passed. We made a conscious decision to not utilize district funds until we knew the community supported this, the addition of a new high school. So with that, there's been a lot of environmental analysis, civil engineering, lots of environmental studies that have been done to analyze site borings, a lot of work that has been done around the entire property to determine the best location. For a lot of the reasons that you're going to hear in a few minutes, it is recommended at this point that the best site location for us is in that central piece, and that we would develop the land at the southern part, which is fully developable. So we will eventually have access. We do have access to the entire property, but as once we're permitted to start clearing that, we will have access to develop that in whatever manner that we end up deciding to. We know initially we're going to look to relocate the baseball and softball field. We're also going to look to relocate the bus parking, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. The transportation building will stay in that current site. That will stay as the transportation center. And then we will be looking to move the actual parking lot where our buses park so that we can create additional parking spaces and create ease of access into the facility. So with that, the next slide, we talk about what are the benefits of this. So it's really important for us to focus on what do we gain? Why is this site being chosen? And what are the benefits from an academic standpoint, logistical standpoint, and an operational standpoint? So at this point, I'm going to turn over to our assistant superintendent in charge of educational programs, Dana Martin, who oversees the academics in our school district, to talk about the academic benefits of being in that central site location.
Thanks, Greg. So when we talked with the community advisory and all of the high school programming meetings we've had this past year, there was quite a bit of talk around, even though the high school might be not connected to the junior high, we still have some programs, we still share students, we share teachers, and we don't want to lose that. So at the meetings, there was conversation about we need to make sure we keep that close. We want the kids to be able to walk, we want to be able to share teachers. So we like this central site because it could be very walkable. It could be we could share teachers. Our programming could go back and forth. So from a teaching and learning benefit, we do like this site a lot.
Mr. Lucky?
Yes, sir. From a logistical standpoint, I think the 3 bullet points that you got on the sheet, but the logistical side of this really started to make a lot of sense when we looked at transportation efficiency. Mr. Sears talked about moving the bus parking. So it will stay attached to that site. It'll just move to the south side of the bus garage versus going out the rear or the east side of the bus garage. So we'll keep our buses on site. From an efficiency standpoint, we'll also be able to maintain a singular drop area for our high school and junior high. So buses will pull in. You guys know we went through the whole process of going to the 3-tier system. We continue to try to squeeze that time. So the first tier and third tier could get closer together. This will allow that to be a possibility. If we weren't to do this, we would have 2 drop areas. So we'd have to drop for the new high school, and we would have to drop for the current high school or new junior high or middle school. And at that time, you start gaining 10 or 15 minutes on the front end, on the back end of transition. That's 30 minutes that you just push that third tier back. So this will allow that efficiency to be maintained. Access to our stadium and current facilities, just going to bring everything closer. When you get around that campus and you see kids walking down that alley, it's just a trail that just takes time and energy and keeps them off the competition field. So consolidating that area and facilities will help all of our programs really. The increased traffic flow and with multiple entrances. You've all been to our school. You see that buses and parents enter and exit the same entrance and exit the same location. Our high school entrances are all down on the north end. This will open up our campus quite a bit and add multiple entry points for buses, parents, and students parking. When you add those access points, you just increase that flow of traffic. So if you sat in that parent drop-off line ever, or waited for buses, or waited for kids to get out of those access points, these just make that site much more efficient and in turn much safer. When you consolidate that many people and you squeeze them into little hinge points, it creates problems for you. And the other side of this is it really maximizes our additional parking. We'll go from 600 to doubling it to over 1,300 spaces on our campus. This is a game changer for our community, for the community, the hamlet here of our community members. You might not see cars in the Christmas shop anymore. This is the game changer for the location because it allows us to add that many more parking spots. And that was really the biggest thing that our community sang to us of, please listen, we need it to be accessible, we need it to be safe, and we need places for people to park.
And then, of course, the community and the board are always concerned with what are the operational or financial benefits or potential costs that we're avoiding. So if we did have to make the second transportation loop that Mr. Lucky discussed, as far as having a whole separate circle with whole separate parking lots, we would spend approximately $700,000 creating a new circle, basically. So we saw that as a downside of putting the location far away from where it is currently. And also, Mr. Lucky mentioned that we would be having more drop-offs and pickups during the day. We pay our bus drivers by the amount of time they're actually in a bus. So by adding 30 minutes approximately to all those high school and junior high routes, you're looking at adding cost because you've got to pay for that extra time. So we estimated it's approximately $180,000 every year that we could add in cost by creating that separate loop in addition to kids getting home later and getting picked up earlier. So there's an efficiency and a cost to that. And also the community advisory team found it beneficial and a positive if we were able to keep the buildings in Deerfield Township. And by using that central site location, the high school would fully be within Deerfield Township like it is currently. And that was important to the CAT team.
So looking at the site location, you can see outlined in red, we have basically created a site concept that outlines where the current high school, the new high school would potentially go. So you see the south part, the bottom part of the page, you see the football stadium or our King Stadium. And you can see where the baseball, softball current complex are. So the outline in red would be the high school site, fit within that footprint. The purple, which is adjacent to the left of the high school building, that purple in large swath is the additional parking that Mr. Lucky discussed. I'll say it this way as well, that if the new high school, and we've outlined inefficiently why it's not on the southern part of the property, but if we were to maximize the available additional parking options, it needed to go in the central site. You can see how that the possibility of adding that many spaces and where that would fit. You'll also see in that site as well an outline of where baseball and softball could potentially go, and then a relocation of the bus parking, transportation parking at the top, swinging it up more along Columbia Road. In this site as well, you've also seen the shared bus parking lot. So our pickup and drop off for our buses can continue to be shared by our high school and our future junior high space location. So I will repeat, we will go from 600 current parking spaces on our campus to approximately 1,300. We'll create separation from our parents, our buses, and our students parking each day. And we'll add a significant amount to the site and be able to relocate and build our baseball and softball complex in this location. So this kind of lays out what that site potentially looks like. And we're gonna go into a little bit further on details of what this may look like in a second. So I'll push pause here before we move forward. If there's any questions from the board and over the site location, and then we'll move into more of the concept design.
I know last year, I think it was 40% of juniors did not get a parking spot. I know the junior class is a lot larger this year. Do we happen to know like how many kids didn't get a parking spot this year?
So we do not have the final numbers on that. I know that there's a large portion of our junior class that is currently not able to get a parking spot. Now, not all of those students actually apply for one.
Right.
But we can get the final numbers to the board and report that out next week if that works.
Okay.
Because we don't have the final update at this point, but we can report that in next week's meeting.
Okay. I mean, I'm excited about the building, and it's funny to be so excited about parking, but I'm thrilled for our students and I'm thrilled for our neighbors not to have to deal with all these cars on our neighbors' streets. So, I mean, to have that big of a parking lot next to this athletic fields and the building itself, it's pretty exciting. And the cost efficiency of that at the same time, so.
It's good.
Mr. Lucky, I have a question for you. So the big bus barn, that's staying the same. Are those, when you're looking at it from the street, there's a couple of buildings off to the right.
Mhm.
Are those staying as well?
As of right now, they'll be maintained there.
Okay.
As we keep folding in the pieces, we'll figure that out. But
Okay.
that's basically our kind of like a big shed. So it's
Mhm.
dry storage for materials and things. And then I have 4 maintenance guys that work out of a small office out of the other one.
Thank you.
Okay. So later in this meeting, under my section that we will ask the board to formally approve of the central site location for the reasons outlined above. So let's move forward into what this initial design of our high school is. And I start off by saying, what are the factors that are influencing the design? What's not on this sheet here, and I'll talk about this in a minute, what's not on this sheet is a significant amount of input that we've had from our community advisory team and also from our staff and our students. Our friends at SHP will outline this in a few minutes, but the factors that are influencing it's driven by our students, our staff, and a lot of our community members. But what's the main factors driving this are we building a building for now, or are we building a building for the future? As we have our strategic initiatives that have been outlined and we are focusing on and emphasizing around our Power 5 future skills, is how do we create spaces within a new building for students to be able to demonstrate and practice and master Power 5 skills? Spaces that require collaboration, communication, areas to problem solve, areas to critically think, areas that allow us to further enhance career readiness. So initially that challenge is, how do we create the spaces that allow our kids to practice the things that we're emphasizing and learning within our school district that are going to propel them into their future? Opportunities to personalize learning experience. So what does personalization look like instructionally and in the building? And how do the spaces match that strategic initiative? And a key piece is adaptable for the future of learning. Our students are becoming more adept. Our technology is advancing. Kids are learning in unique and different ways. So how do we create a facility that is adaptable, flexible for whatever the future holds within the concepts of learning? And so these factors are really, they're fun, they're exciting, it's futuristic. And I think you're going to see a lot of those demonstrated in some of the initial design concepts. But our community needs to understand, and our board as well, that we're working very hard with our staff and our students to really prepare our kids for the future, not only academically, but through skill development, experiential learning opportunities, etc. We're doing a lot of that, and we need our facilities to match that, because currently the facility we're in holds us back in many ways. So we're doing some great work, but it'll absolutely take off and explode once we have the ability to match instructionally what's happening in our building, where we want to go, to the physical spaces that are going to come up. So I'm going to turn this over right now. So you sound very passionate, excited about some of these things, because we're able to, there's not too many opportunities that you really get to apply futuristic concepts that we've been preaching and practicing and developing, and then intentionally create the space to support that. So it's pretty exciting. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Charlie Janigan from SHP. Charlie has been in front of this board many times. He's been in front of our community many times, is leading a lot of the vision behind some of this and trying to make some of this come to life. So I'll turn it over to Charlie to talk about some of this, and he will engage Gregor Lewis into showcasing where we are currently.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sears. Kings Board of Education, next slide. So since March 19th, we have been in the process of a lot of data collection and collaborating with the constituents of the Kings community. This is kind of a summary list of since March 19th, where we've had a couple of community advisory team meetings, or our CAT team. We've had multiple staff meetings with the high school staff. We've sent surveys to them 3 times and have received great feedback. We toured 7 other recent facilities and a higher ed facility just to see what else is going on kind of in our region, and that was really informative. We had 15 small group meetings. These were very specialized to talk about athletics or talk about how the office is going to function, the media center, food service, very focused, detailed meetings to get some information on how they operate and how they envision to operate. And then this summer, we haven't stopped. We've worked really closely with the Columbia team to make sure we continue to move that schedule forward and the design forward. We've had core team meetings, design meetings, and It's been a great process for us. So we actually are really excited for you to come back because we can continue to have the meetings at this pace. So next slide is something that I wanted to share from the community advisory team is when we first started with them early April, and we said, "What's your dream for the high school? Let's dream big." One of the first questions, and some of the top responses were a multi-use cafeteria, outdoor spaces, purposeful spaces that could be, used in a dedicated manner or also flexible, workforce labs, and then again, connection to the outside. You can kind of see that theme that is throughout a lot of the feedback we've received: outdoor spaces and connection to the outside. Next is, next slide. Yep. Some summary on staff surveys and vision, where we were able to see the reflection of the Power of 5 skills: collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking, providing spaces where those can function, and having that mantra and having that belief throughout the district is great because the staff is speaking that to us, and we're trying to incorporate those concepts within the design. Collaboration and support within the departments to make sure that the departments are collaborating and they're not isolated. Spaces that will align with college and career readiness. So we have some very progressive and spaces that are a little more mature, where maybe juniors and seniors will use it and they're thinking about what's next. A lot of flexibility for breakout spaces, small group spaces. And so I'm really excited about the floor plan that you're about to see. And finally, the last feedback from the staff survey is a new building should allow for more coordination between teachers and subjects. So again, giving those ample spaces for the staff and where they can work together to improve the product that they're providing. So one of the more exciting feedback sessions we had was talking with graduating seniors. So there was a group of folks that spoke with seniors in May before they put on the cap and gown. And I really like the feedback that we heard from them, and I'll hit a couple of them. Number one was outdoor classrooms and focusing on fresh air. We realized the importance of getting outside. We all did through 2020, and just being able to change your day and be outside and have daylight, vitamin D, more green spaces. And so you'll see the design has the opportunity to have outdoor spaces. There's some courtyards that allow that. They're large courtyards where multiple classes could be out there without distracting each other. A comment that I like is better lighting, less doctory. We know how doctors' offices can sometimes feel sterile for reasons of infectious control, but we don't want the classrooms to look like that, or even the spaces that kids are collaborating. Breakout rooms for independent learning. We know that kids learn different today. They learn in different manners through phones and YouTube, and the speed of learning is quicker. And they want to have spaces where they can collaborate and teach and share with each other and grow in small collaborative sessions. And last is they were very clear: a school that does not feel or look like our current school. And we tend to hear that recently, where students, they spend a lot of time there, and they want a school that's inviting, it's warm, it's welcoming, but it's unique at the same time, and it represents the community, and they want something that they can be proud of. So we like that as architects, that when students say we want something that is a little more unique and different, and the central setting gives us that opportunity to really kind of create something special and tie it within the athletics portions of the site, and that's our goal, is to achieve that. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Gregor Lewis, who's going to share kind of the initial concepts of where we are, and we're going to end it with some 3D images. So there you go.
Thank you, Charlie. First thing I asked when I got here was like, can I take this microphone out of the stand so I can walk around? For those of you who haven't seen me present, I tend to be very animated. I like to move around. I hope the cameras can keep up. I see they're not even pointing at me, which is fine. Back up. Okay. I can stay up there. So if any of you ever flown over cities or kind of looked down at the ground, you see schools that are typically spread out on large areas of land, and they look like almost tentacles with the academic wings stretched out, with classrooms wrapped around the wings. We don't have that luxury here. On any of the three sites that we were looking at, we have a very dense footprint, and that forces us to think very differently about the architectural response to this site. You can see a little bit of that on the concept one on the left, and even a little bit in concept two on these images. But when we were challenged to think differently, we thought, what could we do with these typical tentacles? Could we maybe kind of wrap them around on each other? So it almost kind of takes the classrooms and embraces the site, embraces these outdoor spaces. Charlie talked about these courtyard spaces. We've managed to do that twice within here. We've taken these classrooms and we've wrapped them around these outdoor spaces so that we can really embrace that relationship to the outside that the students asked for, that the community advisory team asked for, that the teachers, that everybody that we've talked to throughout this process has asked for that connection to those outdoor spaces. So these four concepts were the very first initial concepts that our team put together in response to looking at how could we situate the building in these spaces on the site. The different colors represent different types of spaces. The biggest one is to focus on is the blue spaces. Those are all of our core classroom spaces, our traditional classrooms, our lab spaces. Those are kind of collected together so that we can have that interdisciplinary connection for those students throughout the academic day. But as we went through that, next slide, please. As we went through and discussed the opportunities for all of these, we really settled on that concept 4, which is a very compact, almost kind of square footprint. But what you don't see here is the first floor is all of the multicolored pieces on the top, and the second floor is really representative of the second and the third floor. Because of the density of this space, we had to go up to 3 stories. And if you go to the next slide, I think it shows the layout, or no, this shows the site. So I'll talk about the 3 floors after this slide, but this shows how that concept really started to fit on this central site. We've talked a lot about the academic benefits of putting on this site, the relationship to the existing junior high and the high school, which will become the future middle school. We talked about the logistical benefits of connecting this building to the operations of the bus facility, to the parking, to the athletic facilities. This site location, this configuration allows for a reinforcement of all of those connections. We keep our academics closer to where the schools are, so the students have direct access to come and go between the future middle school and the future high school. We keep our athletic spaces close to the parking for events and close to the stadium so that the students who are using the stadium can take advantage of the future athletic spaces within the new school. So all of these things are intentionally factored into the way that we laid out and thought about the relationship of these spaces. Next slide, please. These are the individual floor plans. You can see the first, second, and floor plans are kind of an evolution of that diagram. What you see here are the actual working plans that we are currently developing or actively developing as a design team back at the office. All of the colors are representative of different types of spaces. The lower level is really what allows those students in the athletics to connect to those outdoor facilities. The lower level will have direct access to the stadium for locker room facilities, for training facilities. So if a student is injured while they're playing or practicing, they'll be able to come in and get attention right there. All students will have access to the resources in the building for all of those outdoor athletic facilities. But the first floor is that main floor that provides multiple points of entry to that central dining space. And then the upper 2 floors are where all of our core academic spaces exist. And all of those are built around those 2 circles that you see. It almost looks a little bit like binoculars from this distance, or one of those viewfinders. Did you ever play with those viewfinders when you were a kid? So all of those spaces are organized and built around those 2 courtyard spaces for daylight and outdoor access. When we zoom in on the first floor plan, we talked about the different colors representing different types of spaces. You can see the administration there. Directly below that, where the doors are, the white space is our main entrance. Opposite of that courtyard on the north part is our bus entrance. So we're bringing students in, whether they're coming by car or coming by bus, into that same place, that central dining location, where they'll have access to food resources if they need them, so they can start their day off with a full belly and awakened mind for learning. We also have the event entry, which is between the music and auditorium spaces, the orange spaces there. The event entry is between that and the arena, which is the yellow spaces to the right. That entry provides direct access from the parking that's to the south that will also serve all of the students. I think we added additional like 700 spaces. Does that sound about right? So we added about additional 700 spaces to the campus, which will serve the students during the academic day, but also for events after hours. People will be coming in that event entry between the theater and the arena, whether they're coming for a performance in the theater or competition in the arena. They'll have direct access to all of those facilities. The administrative spaces, the light green spaces are right near the front entrance. So those will provide security during the school day. People will have to come in through the secure vestibule to get buzzed into the school. And then we collect the art and tech spaces around that courtyard. So those students who are working during the day in those spaces will have access to kind of a secure outdoor space that also provides some outdoor dining during the dining periods in the middle of the day. In addition, what's not labeled here is we do have a large community room. When we went on our building tours, that was something that we saw in several schools, was this large community room, which provides some flexibility for professional development, for potential board meetings like this, when we gather a large crowd. It can even be used by the students during the day because it's part of the school. And then finally, the MD and related services have our own dedicated entrance, separate directly to the outside, where they can have access to those space resources. Next slide, please. So when we go up to the second floor, the second and third floor will look very similar with the blue spaces organized around the perimeter. Those are all of our classroom spaces. And then the Innovation Hub is our evolution of the media center that's centrally located in the middle between the two courtyards. So you can just imagine the amount of daylight that we're going to get into all of these spaces. One of the things we talked about as far as an extension or incorporation of those Power 5 skills was this big idea of collaborative spaces. What we wanted to do is create these scalable learning environments for the students. So the Innovation Hub is a large space where kids can get together in large groups, multiple classes to gather and to learn. The light blue spaces that are kind of that are in the corners are lab space, or the medium blue spaces in the corners are the lab spaces, with the slightly darker blue spaces are our traditional classrooms. And then the very light blue spaces that are just adjacent to the courtyards, those are our extended learning areas. So these are kind of a very intentional space where students can get outside of the classroom, where we'll have furniture there for them to collaborate, to socialize, to work on projects together. It's kind of like what we used to do when we would just get out of the classroom and go work in the hallway, except we're not limited to just an 8-foot area, 8-foot wide area with kids coming and going, where they're stepping on our projects. These are very intentional collaboration spaces to facilitate the types of skills that we're trying to instill in our students and provide for them for the future. Each floor has distributed resources for teachers. That central green space that you see there, as well as some distributed spaces around. And then finally, those yellow spaces that are associated with each one of our small learning communities provides small group rooms where students can get together to collaborate. Anywhere from 2 to 6 students can fit in these rooms, or teachers can use them for breakout or intervention teaching. And then the third floor that you'll see is just really an evolution or a duplication of that. What's happening on the second floor just brought up to the third floor. So we're able to get all of our classrooms. So all of the blue spaces provide spaces for our science, math, social studies, English, foreign language. All of the core curriculum classes that we need are incorporated in and around these learning environments. And then on the lower level that you see here, these are all the student support spaces for the athletics. So one thing that we talked about and that we liked when we toured several of the schools was this idea of the arena, where visitors can come in at the upper level, go around a perimeter track, and then descend down into the bleachers. That's really great because all the services that we need for the public that are coming to the competitions, whether it's basketball or volleyball or any other future sports that we want to host in here, they can stay on that upper level and separate from the students. All the students can stay on that lower level on the competition floor, and they'll have access to their locker rooms, restrooms, training facilities back underneath the auxiliary gym that's on the upper level. So this really keeps that separation, keeps the students safe and secure, keeps all their equipment safe and secure, and provides for an enhanced experience for the public that's coming to visit. And then this is the good stuff. This is what we mentioned the floor plans that you were looking at were our active kind of working floor plans. The software that we use is a three-dimensional software that we model the entire building in, everything from how the walls are framed, the studs and the drywall, the insulation, the bricks on the exterior, the metal panel, the roofing material, all of it is modeled within this software. And so what you're looking at is the active model of our project that is continuing to evolve. And so you see the two kind of the two eye hole courtyard spaces that are part of the academics. So that long rectangular bar with the two courtyards in there is our academic spaces. The white material that's surrounding there represents the two upper floors where our academics are, and then the darker material down below represents where the administration and arts and tech spaces are. The space that's in the foreground with the folded roof on it is our music and our auditorium space. And then the space in the background on the right is our arena space. Next slide. And I think the final one is just a different view of this, so you can start to see some of the detail that we're getting into on the exterior, putting in the windows, trying to delineate the materials so that there's some definition to it. But the overall goal is, and what the students, the outgoing seniors said, was that we don't want this to look and feel like a school. We want this to feel like something that is very much future focused, that is ready to train the students and give them the environments that they need to learn to be able to incorporate those Power 5 skills for their futures. I think that's it for me. Oh, we do have the interiors. I forgot about that. Yeah, so the interior spaces, this is the learning stair that we've incorporated adjacent to the dining space. This provides some kind of social gathering, multi-use functionality for the students during the day. We intentionally located that dining space central on that first floor so it can function for dining during the middle parts of the day when the students are there for their dining periods, but it also functions for kind of a large extended learning area as well as pre-function space for the events going on in the theater and the arena. So it's a very multifunctional, flexible space that the students will be able to use. And then this stair provides kind of a social gathering space and even a dining space if they want to take their sandwiches out and eat on the stair during lunch period, because it's right adjacent to the lunch. And then beyond on the left side of the image, you can see a view into one of the courtyard spaces that will have access to the students during the day for dining, as well as some of the arts and tech spaces that surround it. And then this is a view of the Innovation Hub that's on the second floor. You can see portions of it are a two-story space where it connects from the second floor up to the third floor. There's a stair on the right and there's a stair on the left. They're kind of hidden a little bit, but I want to emphasize that this is very much a early version of the 3D models that we're developing. As these continue to develop, you'll see soffits, we'll see structure, we'll see ductwork, we'll see actual dimensional things, we'll see furniture in there. This space is really just a white box. When we start to see materials and we start to see furniture in there, that's when it really starts to come to life. So I look forward to coming back, hopefully bringing some of my colleagues with me to share some of the interior images as they continue to come to life. One more. Oh yes, the extended learning area. So this is a little bit of a preview of kind of what it looks like when we start to put some furniture in there. Although we are intentionally not thinking about materiality yet, because we're trying to make sure that we get all of the components right sized and get all the adjacencies lined up for the plan. But this is what it will start to look like as we start to think about furniture. This is an example of those extended learning areas that were in the corners that are surrounded by the classroom. So the doors on the left, the doors on the right, those lead into classrooms. So there's a direct adjacency between the classroom spaces where the students will be doing their primary instruction and these collaboration spaces where they come out with flexible different types of seating, some high seating, some low seating, where they can do some of their collaborative projects. And then most importantly, the daylight that reaches out to the courtyard in the back of the image provides some very wonderful natural light into all of the spaces, the classrooms that are around the perimeter, as well as the ELAs that are internal to the floor plan. I think that's done. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One item to address is on the plans, you did see courtyards. I'll remind you that the current high school has an enclosed courtyard. The current junior high has 2 enclosed courtyards. And that's something that comes in as a result of a building this large. You know, we're at 290,000 square feet. In order to provide daylight on a compact footprint, when we incorporate those, it allows for daylight in an environment that's bright and energetic. And it also gives an opportunity to have outside programmed activities. So the 2 courtyards, we will ultimately work with the district to put in probably very durable materials, low maintenance materials, seating that might be concrete that's fixed, that can take the wear and tear through the years. And when we do that in a very intentional manner, we find that these courtyards can be really, really wonderful assets, and they can be, it's an occupied space that's within the school, but it's not in that 290,000 square feet. It's kind of bonus square footage that you gain. And then the cost of doing it is a fraction of the cost of building new. So if you were to look at a lot of aerials of newer buildings that are larger, you see a lot of courtyards, and we have a great track record of working with HGC on doing it, where we get the big things in while we have the big equipment there, and then they kind of back out of it. And then the district is the beneficiary of that. So Bill Brownback is also here with HGC. If you have any other questions for SHP or HGC on construction and design of the new high school.
So the design and the square footage still meets within that budget that we told the community that we would use?
Correct. That's the goal. We are working with HGC to, they've been given some of these plans to kind of break things into is what we call buckets of money. When we have a building this large, we want to look at how much concrete are we going to have? How much glass are we going to have? How much steel are we going to have? How much roofing are we going to have? And we're trying to allocate those now. So our design team, because we're ready to really roll this plan out to a lot of additional folks, engineers, et cetera. And so we all can know what we're playing with, but the budget is a topic in every single meeting. So to answer your question, yes, we're on pace, and it's one of the number one things we do in every meeting, that and talk about safety.
Thank you. I know the community is probably as interested as we are as a board in making sure that we can deliver that product.
Correct.
And the question about the cafeteria. Currently at the high school, they start lunch about 10 o'clock. So
Yeah.
to be able to shorten that by having more students.
Yeah, your lunch starts at 10 and it goes until 1:30 because that's as many students that can sit at a time. I think they chunk it up into 4 or 5 different sessions of lunch. Our goal is to reduce it and to make it be closer to a noon time, where it might be 2 waves of students, so we can get 2 classes in there, freshman, sophomore, and junior, senior, et cetera, to eat and be able to focus more time in the classrooms. We also know that kind of compressed lunch schedule also affects your bell schedule. They're shorter. And hopefully by programming this with a large amount of seating, it can give you that ability to have longer bells throughout the day.
Time frame again. When do you foresee the design process being complete?
Well, we're in the trenches right now, and we are in the phases called schematic. So it's the first like 30% or so of the design. We turn those over to HGC end of September, and that time is coming quickly. And so we have about 6-7 weeks from right now before we turn those over. At that point, we put our pencils down. We price it. SHP will put an estimate to it, and HGC will put an estimate to it to make sure we're on pace. And we'll pick things up around November, and we go all the way till the end of January. That's that second round. We do the same exercise on pricing. And then we will pick things up in the later winter, early spring, and then we turn things over about July of next year. So we're about 25% into it right now, but a lot of it, the clay is being molded, as you can see. And but the design, as far as renderings and visuals, you'll see a pretty baked cake by this fall. We'll have imagery with color and scale and proportions and people, and you'll be able to really understand how it fits within the campus.
And even though we're seeing these renderings, how excited should we get that it's gonna look like this? Is there still a lot of changes happening?
We've had a lot of iterations. We had our first meeting here March 20th. We have not, we've jumped right in, and the district has met many people from our team, and our goal really is to get this design, what you saw, to make it be color and really start to apply material and landscaping and parking and all the things, birds flying through the sky, roller coasters in the distance, where you can say, wow, that's it. I can see it. I believe it. But we need to go through that estimating process to make sure that a lot of the things we are showing in the design can fit to the budget. For the first floor, for example, we're showing a 20-foot floor to floor distance, and is it 20 feet or is it 18 feet? We need to hone in on some of those details. So, but this fall will be exciting. You're going to have a lot of presentations this fall to see how things develop.
Get excited, but don't get like married to it.
I mean, we're not going backwards. So I would say you can be excited. Yep.
Where will the community that might be listening now be able to see?
Yeah, great
all of
question.
this?
Next slide. So next steps, Mr. Sears, you want to address it?
Yeah, I'll go. So some next steps internally for us. We're going to be releasing a video, like a welcome back video for me Thursday to our community, welcome all of our students back, but then also talk a little bit about this process and direct people to the kingsfacilities.org website, where this presentation in its entirety will be there. A lot of the latest renderings will be there. Other information will show up. We really want the kingsfacilities.org website to be the warehouse for all the latest information and the latest updates. So that will happen this week. We're also going to re-engage our CAT team. We promised them the summer off, and we're going to re-engage them soon to provide some additional update, feedback, etc. We're looking at some community forum information, sharing to the broader community, inviting people in to see some different things in sometime in September, and then we're continuing significant amount of high school design meetings currently. So those are heavy in the we met with the staff yesterday. SHP did. Teachers this is kind of their first look as well from the progress throughout the summer and how their feedback has been utilized. And so there's a general excitement around that. And now we're going to get a little more granular over the next few weeks and months around working with our staff on what the actual details look like. So those are some next steps. Long answer to your question, but you were as predicting where we were going with this, Mrs. Phillips. So kingsfacilities.org will be the warehouse for all of the latest, and we'll when we update new imagery or just lots of different information will start to show up there at the end of this week.
Now, is that kingsfacilities.org? Is that live yet or not till later this week?
Dawn, it is not live yet. It will be live. It will be live after the video to the community. Perfect. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
You need to acknowledge that I'm here, Mr. Morrow, for me to take over the meeting, sir.
I've got you down. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir. Next on the agenda are the discussion items for the treasurer, Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. Number one is just the typical meeting minutes. I asked the board, take a look at that in the next week. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Number two is our normal financials, and they really fit in with number three this month. So one of the big things that is discussed is budget versus actual. So we use the forecast as a budget, and then we report out on actuals and how we're doing compared to that. We're only a month into this year, so not a lot has changed, but we did get some great news in the past week or so. We received our health insurance renewal for 2025. We had built in the forecast a 9% increase, which is kind of that market average. We actually got a 0.5% increase, which is spectacular news. So that is one big item that is reflected in the financials and the budget to actual. This is one of our biggest contracts as a school district. If you look at the document, we're pushing $7.5 million between what we spend and what staff contributes as well. So this is one of those that's always on the radar, and I'm getting updates all the time to kind of see where we're at and where we're headed. And this came in better than early expectations. So fantastic news. I want to absolutely point out kind of the historical premium increases that I've listed over the years. We joined a consortium named Swoosh in 2022, and we've had really exceptional results since we've joined. 4.4% increase, a negative 1.2%, and then a 0.5% in the past 3 years. So it drives down our cost. It's a big deal. Every time we save money on this, you're saving money forever, basically, because once you take a 10%, you're carrying that 10% forever in theory as costs continue to rise. So it's really exciting news and great news. It's great for our staff, great for our district and community. So definitely wanted to point that out and point out that building those savings into the forecast.
Can we expect to continue seeing these low rates?
I hope so. We joined Swoosh. They have a great track record, and that was one of the reasons that we made the change. In the past decade, they've been right around a 4% on average. So they've consistently beat the market. And we've been the best performing district in Swoosh. I give a lot of credit to Opt Out. So we contract with enrollment management services to help our staff determine what the best insurance is for them. We have nearly 200 staff members that are engaged with this service. So it helps drive down our premiums, and it helps mitigate risk. And it's showing just over the past few years that program being so robust and it being so well known in the district has really helped us tremendously. So between those two items, I'm hopeful that we can continue to see those lower rates, but I continue to build in more of market average just because just like anything else, if we come in lower, it's great. It adds to our bottom line. But if we take a 10 and I'm building in a 3, then it's big negative impact. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars each year that accumulate. So continue to be conservative with the market, but I'm optimistic. Number 4, dental insurance. Not great news, but not terrible news. Our renewal is a 5.9%. It's not terrible. This isn't near the cost driver that health insurance is. And we actually got a 3% decrease last year. So if you look at a 2-year average, we're still doing really good. Our total premiums are going to go up about $20,000. I built in an expectation that this was going to go up because all indications was that it was going to go up some. So not a huge surprise here and really not bad. Vision insurance, 0% increase, rate locked for 4 years. So that's fantastic. This is also one of the lower lines, but staff help pay this cost. So if you get a 0, that helps save them money for the same product they've been getting, which is fantastic. Life insurance, Number 6, we got a 9.2% increase at a 3-year rate lock. Rates have been flat since 2019, so we expected some kind of cost increase. This is kind of a low dollar amount that we spend on life insurance. We're talking about $2,000 increase in costs, and so nothing major. But by taking the 9.2, it also opened up a benefit for our staff. So this year they'll actually be able to buy their own health insurance or life insurance up to $200,000 with no medical evaluation. So you can just sign up for $200,000 of coverage at a reasonable rate. So I believe I'll be taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
Oh. Number 7, back in the spring, I asked the board to make a loan to our construction fund. Now that we've issued our bonds and we have bond money to pay for construction, I'm asking that the board approve the repayment of the loan back to our operating account in full. So it's $2 million in the spring. That completes the $2 million payback. So our general fund is whole on the project. Number 8, proper public purpose expenses. We received guidance this summer that the auditor of state was requiring district boards of education to basically affirm that the occasional purchase of meals and refreshments for staff is in fact a proper public purpose of funds. This isn't something that's used very often, but it is occasionally, such as when we welcome staff back. But this is just the board affirming that, yes, we do believe that it is necessary if the superintendent and treasurer agree that it's a good use of funds. Number 9, investment reporting. This is just compliance. We're required to report to the public and to the state once a year the investments that we're making. All of our primary investing is done with Red Tree, who met with the board over the summer, only investing in investments that are allowed by state law, with security of funds being the number 1 priority. So nothing really major on this, just kind of checking a box for the state. Number 10, public records log. So you're decently caught up. I received a request that was actually kind of 6 different requests baked into one email that we're working through. Actually have most of it put together, just finishing it up to be able to respond.
Now, it looks like that was one that's pretty much identical to one earlier.
Yeah, so we received it the first time and our attorneys advised that what they were asking for didn't meet public record and sunshine law requirements for a public records request. It was overly broad and ambiguous, which is I noted on the log itself. So they modified it a little bit to try to get within those the scope. So for example, if you're asking for every single email from every single person for a decade, then it's overly broad. We can't identify what you're looking for. We can't go through every single email to make sure student names are redacted and any other personally identifiable information. So there's a certain scope you have to meet when you do a public records request.
Okay.
And then number 11, this is an update from information that was provided to the board last month. We received money from the state that can only be used on essentially student health and wellness type items. We have 3 community partners that we work with that meet the criteria to use those funds. So they went through the document that was provided to the board last month, refined it a little bit. Nothing major. This is just saying we're going to spend money on kids' mental health and their physical health. But we're required by law to put this in front of the board and also put it on our website. So if between now and the next meeting, the board has any concerns or questions, I'd be more than happy to address those.
Any questions for Mr. Morrow this evening? No? All right. Next on the agenda, looks like we have a discussion and approval item for the superintendent? Mr.
Yes,
Sears?
as discussed earlier, we are requesting approval of the high school site locations. This is an actionable item this evening based on the presentation earlier.
All right. Any further questions for Mr. Sears or staff Charlie and Gregor? All right, with that, may I have a motion to approve the high school site location?
I'll
Um,
make the- oh, oh, go ahead.
We're all excited.
Yeah. That motion.
I will second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the agenda are the discussion items for the assistant superintendent concerning HR and business. Mr. Spinner, Mr. Lucky.
Good evening, President Belfrom, King's Board of Education. 2 items under our section this evening. First up, personnel items. I am thrilled to report that we are fully staffed from a certified standpoint. All students will be walking into their classrooms on Thursday with a teacher at the front of the classroom. So we're excited to announce that for sure. We do have a couple of classified positions that our principals in those respective buildings continue to work on, and I am confident that we will find great fits for all of those spots very, very soon. Would also like to introduce to you our recommendation for the Director of Childcare and Summer Camp Programming to replace Mr. Corradini, who has accepted a position as Director of Warren County Career Center. Mimi Connolly is a King's parent and community member with a degree in Human Development and Family Science from Ohio State University. She also has over 15 years of experience in the coordination and direction of childcare programs throughout the area. She has hit the ground running and is going to be a great fit for our school district going forward. And we look forward to the before and after care programs opening on Monday, the 19th, for all of our students taking advantage of those programs. Happy to answer any questions with regards to personnel. Second item, provided you with a sneak peek in July of our 25-26 calendar, giving you a little bit of an opportunity to review that tonight for the work session. We'll have it up for recommendation next week for 25-26 school year calendar. We haven't even begun the 24-25 school year. We're already talking.
I like it.
And
I
we're
like
ready
it.
to rock and roll.
How to plan vacation.
That's right. That's right.
Any questions for Mr. Spinner? Mr. Lucky, I'll save all my construction update questions for next week. All right, next on the agenda are the discussion items for the assistant superintendent regarding our educational programs. Mrs. Martin, Mr. Freeman.
Good evening, everyone. We have 2 items. I'll address the first one, and then I think Dana is going to do the second. The first item is just a request for your approval for some resource adoption for the new personal finance class that we added as a result of the state requirement for students in the class of 2026 and beyond. So our current juniors and kind of moving forward are required to earn a half a credit in personal finance. So we approved that class last winter, you'll remember. And so late this spring and then in the summer, we've been on the lookout for a resource to use to support that class. And so that's what we're asking for you to adopt, if you would. It is a digital license for 3 years is what the contract is for. So it's a resource that we would leverage for that period of time. Students would have access to an e-textbook and other resources, teacher materials, and an actual workbook too that that they would be able to work from as well. So happy to take any questions you have on that.
Just out of curiosity, since this is new for the junior class, how many are you seeing them register most of them as juniors, or do you think they're going to hold off and take it as seniors?
That's a great question. I mean, we had over 50 students. We did offer it in summer school for original credit using Apex, which is our credit recovery option. So some students, mostly juniors, were taking it to get it out of the way. So we do have a full schedule. So we have I think every class period actually has a personal finance class, and there are 3 high school instructors that will be teaching. So it's, yeah, it's a good mix of juniors and seniors. It is, since it's a graduation requirement for juniors, we're prioritizing those students this summer and this school year. So it's a great course, I think, for anyone going out into the world. So I'm happy that we're adding it. But definitely class of 2026 was the priority.
All right, I'm going to tackle number 2, the in-service MOU. So you've heard Matt and I talk about the professional development team for the past 2 years. And really the contract language did not really match up with what we've been doing the past 2 years. Matt and I have worked with KEA. We met with them in the spring and we all agreed we needed to update the language to really reflect the collaboration. And it really revolved around membership. We've added quite a bit of teacher members to the team. And so KEA, after we met, decided we definitely needed to update the MOU, and that's what they've done this summer. And it very much reflects the current PD team right now. So we just want the language updated for the contract. So that's what that is.
And how was PD day today?
It was awesome.
Good.
I think we were a little nervous going in because we tried something new and different. And at about 10:30, the teaching and learning department were like, I feel great. It actually worked. It went well. And we've already started getting emails from some teachers saying, hey, we want to keep this up for October. So
Good.
we think a survey will go out. So we'll have a few people always, right? But we think it went really well. Matt, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. I was talking to Janelle on the way in, and it's one of the things that we did new to kick off. So the whole morning was all centered around literacy, content literacy, and the ELA standards work that we engaged in all last semester. It was a time for all the, we did some K-5 team meetings to dive into those standards with everyone. It was a design team that created it. And this morning we had an opportunity for all of our K-5 teachers to take a deeper dive into those standards. But to kind of kick off in the morning, we did a panel discussion. And so we had 6 teachers, 2 administrators, 4 teachers. We had some questions up on the board that I facilitated, and the teachers answered them. And it was, I mean, they killed it. I mean, I'm so pleased with all of them. Not scripted, of course. It's their ideas and thoughts around the importance of literacy as a foundational skill for our students and what it needs to look like in connection to the Power 5. So I was nervous because it was new, but I could not be more happy with the outcome. And we got, I think the message was well received by the staff, and I think we were all encouraged going into those team meetings to talk more about literacy. So it was great.
I will say one more thing. We're being very deliberate this year around the Power 5 and personalized learning with some of that language, and it came out loud and clear. And then the facilitated work after that with the next 2 hours with all of the content teams and their work about Power 5 and personalized learning, we heard lots of good discussions. We're really excited about the strategic initiatives in the 3rd year, pushing in a little bit more every single time with the teachers. So it was a great day.
So you're saying our teachers are wonderful? And
That's
they're
exactly what we're
doing
saying.
great jobs
Yes.
and going above and beyond.
Yes, that's exactly what we're saying. And big shout out to the professional development team. Really, they've come in a couple times this month in August. We've worked with them in May and back in April just to plan these 2 days. And we start in 2 more weeks, just starting for this year. So that team never stops working, and it's a lot of teachers on that team.
I think the key piece, and I'll add, is the cultural shift that has taken place over the last few years, that our teachers truly are the experts. They're the instructional experts in our district. Our job and our administrators are to be instructional leaders, but our teachers are the experts. And so Matt and Dana have done an excellent job working with our coaches in year 2 of our coaches to have our teachers are leading the professional work that's happening in our district. We've established a vision. We've established that Power 5, that personalized approach. And then our teachers are, that's the cultural shift has been the teachers are leading the work. And that's why it works. It truthfully, when you put the best people at the table that are the experts in their field and you challenge them with a futuristic vision, That's why it starts to work. And so I'm really proud of these guys and the work they're doing, and they're starting to see some of the fruits of that labor. But our PD team, and why we're updating the MOU is because that cultural shift has taken place of adding staff, adding teachers to do the work. So it's really good work, and I'm glad you're starting to see some positive outcomes. And we'll start to see this sprinkle into different levels of student achievement, student experiences. It takes time, but we're well on the road to some really awesome things. So
Good to hear that. Any questions for them? All right. So next on the agenda are items presented by the board. Have anything to present this evening?
Nothing to present, but I'm like hearing a common thread, and it's like listening. Like we listen to our community, and we listen to our students, and we listen to our teachers, and we've got this amazing design process going on for our building. And now we're listening to our teachers are listening to our teachers, and they're learning more. So, I mean, it's a great culture to feel like you're being heard and everybody's communicating so well. So thank you to all your hard work that you do during the summer to put this all into place, on top of trying to manage this whole building process. So I think all 5 of us can agree that we appreciate all your hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And one request, those renderings were great, but can we share the Columbia renderings the next time too, possibly?
we'll give you an update. Yes, so we will give you an update on the latest renderings of Columbia.
Okay.
In July, we went through the initial design. Those are out for the next phase of pricing. And so there's some adjustments being made based on the pricing that HGC and SHP are working through that may impact the design just a shade, just a little bit. And so in September, we plan on talking about Columbia a little bit more as well.
Awesome.
So that project is moving at a super fast rate. Tonight we just wanted to be about high school since we did Columbia in July, and then we'll come back to probably both of them in the near future. But we're still on track to potentially break ground on Columbia right after the first of the year, to have that project wrapped up on that edition, hopefully by the start of next school year. So that's awesome. And it's built on a lot of the same concepts and themes that our high school is too. So it's good.
Right.
Anything else for the board to share this evening? All right. Well, with that, next on the agenda is the executive session. So we'll be entering into executive session this evening for the following purpose: to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. And upon conclusion of our executive session, we'll adjourn this evening's meeting. So with that, may I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Callan,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull.
Yes.
Have a good night, everyone.